What's up, y'all? It's BRG. I am thoroughly de-stressed and decompressed. Well, actually, you know what? I don't stress over elections because I'm a communist. Like, if you're a socialist, if you're a communist, whatever you identify as, and you like worry yourself over American elections, then there's something really wrong with you. You haven't done the reading. So that's why I keep telling you all: read George Jackson, read Frantz Fanon, read Settlers. Like these suggestions that I'm making. Oh God, my camera really doesn't want me to show up. But um these suggestions that I'm making, like they are jokes. There's not like shit I want you to read to pose as being smarter than anybody else. When I tell you guys to read stuff, it's because these readings, these studies will actually help improve your understanding of the world so that you are not calling yourself a communist, stressing out about bourgeois elections. So we don't do that. Trump won. Everybody in the know knew that Trump was going to win. Why did Trump win? Because Kamala ran an absolutely horrible campaign. People that are talking about, oh, she lost because she's black. She's lost because she's, well, look, if Democrats ran Michelle Obama, like they would literally sweep this country. But Michelle Obama is a very smart woman, and I don't think she's stupid enough to run for president of this moribund shithole. So, yeah, that's why Kamala lost. Like, why the fuck would you send a pedophile like Bill Clinton to go lecture Arab voters in Dearborn, Michigan? And stop blaming Arabs. Stop blaming black people, okay? Who elected Trump the first time? Like, Hillary Clinton ran in 2016. The majority of white women voted against their sister for Donald Trump. Why? Because it's about the fucking money. Rich white women are, well, Hillary Clinton is a rich white woman, but rich white women know where their bread is buttered, okay? They're not going to be, these people are not going to be socialists. They're not going to be socialists because they know where their bread is buttered. They're not going to advocate for and organize for a system that will knock them off the top. I'll knock them off the top of the totem pole, so to speak. So I read this really, really good article by Gabriel Wynant in Dissent the other day. Oh, what's up, awkward? My brother in bald is just sitting here looking like a chatan. What's up?
Yeah, what's up, man? How
All
you
right.
doing?
I'm good.
One thing I thought of when you mentioned Hillary was that part of their plan initially was to position Trump as the one they wanted to go against, the one they were going to focus on, because they were so certain that Trump didn't have any chance that they actually amplified him and made it less likely for her to win.
Yeah. Like they literally set all this shit
Smart
up
stuff.
themselves. Yeah. They set this shit up for themselves. Like you cannot, like they didn't want to run against, well, first of all, they fucked Bernie Sanders. Bernie could have won, but he's also an old done man. He's not running for president ever again. Okay. Like quit relying on Bernie. And it's hilarious how liberals accuse communists and socialists of building up cults of personality, yet you put all of your stock, you put all of your hopes and dreams on an old white man. Like that's not going to happen. This man is going to
Man,
die
at
soon,
least
and then
he's
you're going to be
at least
shedding
he's
love.
an old Jew, all right?
Oh dear. Well, you can say that because you're Jewish. I can't
Oh
say
yeah.
that because
No,
I
no,
can't.
but I mean, no, you in my mind, you totally could. Like when you say that fucking Jew, you're being intentionally like you're using that in a mean way, in an ignorant way. But if you say, well, at least he's a Jew, I'd be like, yeah, word, I feel you.
Yeah, Jewish people do tend to be more progressive than the like than most white settlers. It's I think it's for a couple of reasons.
Absolutely.
For one, it's because of all the bullshit that you guys have faced throughout history, and two, Jewish people in the United States, y'all literally built the fucking communist movement. Y'all literally built the socialist movement. Like Yiddish in the early 20th century, that was basically the second language of the American communist movement. Um, so
And
yeah,
we were the first anti-fascists too.
that is true.
And there's obviously nowadays a lot more complexity, and I don't blame certain populations who've only seen certain Jewish people for being confused or being rightfully unhappy with them. Not every Jew is exactly the same, just like not every black person is exactly the same. I'll point out the ADL, the Anti Defamation League. Let me think for a second. Over 20 years ago, I organized something at my high school with the Anti Defamation League. I didn't know at the time exactly what they were. But it's pretty clear now when they focus um, on leftist anti-Zionists as opposed to far-right Nazis, that they're not on our side.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to your article. My bad.
Well, that was a lovely tangent. But yeah, hats off to all the Jewish comrades out there. But yeah, I'm not going to flat out come out and say, well, at least Bernie's a Jew, because that would sound ignorant, and I'm not Louis Farrakhan. So yeah, this article, it's probably the best post-mortem of this election that I've seen, because the liberals are entirely delusional. Like, these people are just as bad as, if not worse than, the MAGA cult. Like, I saw somebody saying that, God, what did this idiot say? Kamala lost because she's a woman and because she's black. Okay, we've already had a black president. We've had a black male president. And to reduce everything, I'm not one of those like anti-identity politics people, because identity politics in its original purest form is the product of women who were involved in the Black Panther Party and various new communist organizations in the 70s, who realized that, hey, we're kind of dropping the ball here, because we can't just reduce everything to class in a settler colonial country, a country where patriarchy exists, a country where racial capitalism exists. So while class remains the key link, for example, I don't think I'm going to be interviewing or working with Beyonce or Kamala Harris anytime soon, even though they are black. Like, you can't just reduce everything to either identity or class. Okay, so
yeah, I fully agree with that. Like, class is that connection, and identities are critical. And as long as we continually look at it intersectionally, as cliche or as corny as that word may have been made, a la woke, that's critical. Like, we are all different. We all come from different backgrounds with different mindsets. And so I'm talking within our tent, so to speak, not including liberals. We need to, of course, embrace all our differences.
Yeah, embrace, but also we shouldn't tolerate like reactionary behavior.
No, I mean, like, that's what I meant by our tent, so to speak. Like, to me, it goes without saying, there's no Nazis in the tent or at the table. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is really interesting. The best moment of the Harris campaign, wine, it says, was the very beginning, when she got a chance to embody the collective sigh of relief at Joe Biden's decision to bow out. And he did not, like, this man is a literal clinical narcissist. Like, he literally thinks that he's probably the best president in American history, even though he's going to go down in history as worse than, well, not worse than Harding. Okay. Trump is Harding. Well, he's a loud, ignorant combination of Harding and Nixon, and with a little, I guess, Andrew Jackson thrown in. Like, he's a big Andrew Jackson fan. Of course, he loved the guy who was known as Sharp Knife by our indigenous comrades. But yeah, so everybody was relieved that Biden dropped out. Of course, people like us weren't, because we knew that he was going to be replaced by somebody like Kamala Harris. Like, they're not going to tap Rashida Tlaib or Cori Bush, rest in power, or any of these any progressive politician, because the money people will not tolerate that. Like, they're already floating John fucking Fetterman, Zionist Hodor, for 28. So this guy's going to be running against JD Vance, and Vance is going to eat his ass up. That eyeshadow wearing goof is going to demolish John Fetterman. And knowing John Fetterman's history, he's probably not going to survive the election cycle. So, yeah, the Democrats have been dead. Like, they're going to go the way of the Whigs. So I think it is imperative on everybody who calls themselves a communist or a socialist, like, to break completely from these people. Like, for one, they don't like us. They do not like us. They did not even let a Palestinian American woman, a Palestinian American Georgia state senator, speak at their convention, but they felt entitled to the Palestinian vote. So Winant goes on to say that Kamala Harris and those around her, and quit saying that she ran a flawless campaign. Like, liberals are literal fucking narcissists. How do you lose? Abominably lose, yet you ran a flawless campaign. Like, what aspect of this campaign was flawless? Was it sending Bill Clinton to Dearborn? Was it bringing Richie Torres to Michigan? Like, you shouldn't be surprised you lost Michigan. If you know that Arab voters are dissatisfied with you because of a policy that your administration is pursuing, And quit saying that Kamala doesn't have any power. She is the second most powerful person in the United States. She is the vice president of the motherfucking United States. If she wasn't that powerful, why the fuck does she have a Secret Service detail? Why can you not get within 5 feet of her? Like, this lady has power. Hell, she's probably been running the country because Biden doesn't know if he's having Jello or pudding for dinner. And like, it's just, it's baffling. Very little baffles me as a communist, but the narcissism of these people is baffling. Like, how the fuck are you going to say that this woman who lost abominably to Donald fucking Trump, like, do you have any idea how shitty a candidate you have to be to lose to a literal fucking fascist? So, her entire shtick, her entire deal was one, elitism. That's why she surrounded herself with celebrities. Like, she literally paid Oprah $1 million to campaign with her. So if you have to pay people to come out, like Obama didn't have to pay nobody to come out with him. Trump doesn't have to pay people to come out. You suck so bad. Mind you, this woman does not win a single primary. In 2020, when she ran, she did not win a single primary. And she actually thought that people were going to make her president of the United States. So again, the Democrats deserve this loss. Back to the postmortem. It opens by talking about like how nobody's going to ever forget like how what do they call those people? Delegates that were leaving an event, that were leaving the event at the convention over the summer. You had these people that were reading out the names of Palestinians who had been murdered, Palestinian children who had been murdered. And these people were literally mocking protesters. People were literally covering their ears and giggling maniacally in an arrogant way. So why do you feel entitled to the votes of progressive people, people that actually give a fuck about what's happening to our Palestinian class brothers and sisters? And yet you do this. Like, it baffles me. Maybe Awkward has some understanding of this. Like, as a white person,
Yeah.
how do you understand it? I mean, well, actually, fascism in the United States is multiracial. It's not just a white thing anymore. Like, people understand how cooked, like, America is so cooked that they are literally trying to incorporate black people into the empire like they incorporated the Irish and Italians. I mean, the Latinos are already halfway there.
Yes. The Hispanic Latino side of my family, it's my wife's side, and it doesn't include my wife, but they are pretty much there on the conservative side. I didn't ask them who they voted for. I don't care, but
Because you
so
already
yeah,
know.
and that's what is that? It doesn't matter. It's an example, which doesn't carry that much weight, but whatever. I've experienced that. You also, now that Zionism is like a big topic again, you have even more Jews voting against their typical interests. And then on top of that, you have all these liberals that I have spent all this time converting on a variety of issues. It occurred to me maybe 2020, 2021, that I could, that that going on the Jesse Lee Peterson show and calling him a Nazi and essentially a token, I didn't use that word, and leaving after a minute, that didn't carry much value. That unfortunately boosted the awareness of me on the wrong side. So the death threats came along with the Andy No shit, but I realized that I could not manipulate, I could influence the minds of liberals. And I turned a whole bunch of reformists and law and order liberals into abolitionists over the last 4 years. But what I wasn't able to do, and to be honest, didn't put a lot of focus in because I knew it was not going to happen, was considering alternative candidates. I actually spent a bit of time in the beginning working on the Cornel West and Melina Abdullah campaign, because I've known Dr. Abdullah for a while. And we knew they weren't going to win. We knew Jill Stein wasn't going to win. But the more that
did you hear Butch Ware is running for governor of California? And I'm like,
Uh,
you literally just like, I don't know, maybe dude just likes running for shit. Like, isn't he a
yeah, I
professor?
wouldn't
Don't you have
vote for
students to
him.
teach? Yeah,
I wouldn't
I
vote for
voted.
him.
I did vote for Stein this
Mhm.
year, but like, I'm not. I had like a few months long flirtation with the Greens, but as I found more out about them, I literally made a whole
Yeah,
ass video on it. But like,
yeah.
it's just like, no, I
That's
don't
a
place all of
problem,
my faith.
right? Like,
Yeah,
that's a
I don't
problem.
place.
And actually, it goes back to what you were saying in the beginning. If you're a true anarchist, socialist, communist, eco, whatever, like when you're not part of the mainstream, it doesn't matter. It's not going to work. Even the mainstream, non-mainstream options are more mainstream or more centrist than we are. There's a reason that people like us, people like Dylan Rodriguez, don't run for office at the federal level, potentially even at the state level. I agree with you fully. At the local level, and I talk a lot about community defense and things like that. At the local level, we've seen abolitionists get elected, and you can have an influence. So for what that's worth.
1 second. So comrade from Wise to Dome TV is on. He did a really, really good interview with Gerald Horn yesterday, I believe. Gerald Horn is one of my favorite theoreticians and authors, and you should definitely read him, and you should also listen to the interview. But so abolition, because a lot of people don't know what abolition is. Abolition is not like old school Abraham Lincoln get shot in the head abolitionism. And like even then, Lincoln was, so when we talk about abolition in the United States, like original abolitionism in the United States, both of them pertain to black people because black people were slaves and now black people are prison slaves. By the way, over half of California voters voted to keep prison slavery. So the bluest of blue states, the state that sired and
And go
raised
read
Kamala
the
Harris.
language. Go read the language. Like it's basically like, do you want to abolish slavery fully? It's not even like appealing. It's not even like leaning toward the fucking law and order. It's not even saying, do you want your prisoners who you've disappeared to not be slaves? I swear it was like really general.
Yeah, like, so I've got this article from
And they
Cal
still
Matters.
said no, they wanted it. They wanted
Yeah,
slavery. So
because yeah, just because somebody votes for Democrats, it does not mean that they're a fascist. Both parties in the United States are fascist. The Democrats are Mussolini, and the Republicans are all your Hitlers. Hang out. So Proposition 6, it had support from Democratic Party leaders, labor unions, and dozens of advocacy groups who viewed their efforts as part of a national movement to end a racist legacy and abolish slavery. The constitutional amendment that has a loophole to continue to allow prisoners to be used as slaves. If somebody works you for a penny an hour, that's slavery. You cannot live off a penny an hour. Do you have any idea how much prison commissary food is? Do you have any idea how much it costs to call your relatives? Like everything in prison is a racket because these contractors, they have a monopoly. And like, what are the prisoners going to do? Go somewhere else? Like, oh, this phone plan too high. I'm going to switch to AT&T. No, they can't do that. Everything in prison is a monopoly. So they have a captive market.
yeah.
So they can
Let me
charge.
clarify. Just in case anyone listening doesn't know, everything you've said is exactly correct, and it applies to every carceral institution. So that includes like these mental health institutions that remain. That includes every prison, every jail, every ICE center. They are all corporatized. So if you remember early on, Biden lied and said he was going to and private prisons, but he meant federal only, which is less than 11%. It might even be far less than that of all incarcerated people. If that even happened, they would have just been moved to not-for-profit prisons. And the point in all this is those so-called not-for-profit prisons are for profit also. And the companies that are making the biggest profits are the same ones lobbying the politicians that enable this to happen and donating the largest amounts to police unions and police foundations.
Yeah. Because
It's
everything in
the
the United
prison
States.
industrial complex.
Yep.
which is tied to
Yep.
the military industrial complex and the nonprofit industrial complex.
All three of which have roots in the slavery industrial complex.
Right.
Like
And
people.
abolition, well, I was just going to say, abolition, as you were starting to say, was anti slavery. Nowadays, a lot of people think of abolition as abolishing the death penalty. And a lot of people do mean that. There are people who want to abolish prisons. Abolition as a lifestyle, as a mindset, as a philosophy is much more like the anarchist or socialist ideologies of, I would say, my guess is the majority of your listeners. Obviously, I can go into greater detail, but it is about completely changing the way our society works.
Yeah, that sounds like communism. Like that's what people don't understand, that communism is not a reformist ideology.
No.
Socialism, in its purest, is not a reformist ideology. To be a communist or to be a socialist, you have to believe that the system cannot be reformed. George Jackson defined fascism at the root as reform. Like Mussolini literally told a representative from the United States government that fascism was basically the New Deal. So, with that ideological understanding, it doesn't make sense to be a reformist. Like all of these ballot measures, like why would we put people's rights up to vote? Like would we have put the Civil Rights Amendment to a vote? It would have failed horribly. Like some shit you just gotta do. Like there's absolutely, well, there is a reason, because America is a dictatorship of the bourgeoisie, the dictatorship of the 1%, to use Bernie Sanders' language. Well, actually, Bernie Sanders jacked that from the Occupy movement. But
yes, he did.
So every horrible thing that America does is to make money. If you ever have a question about, oh, why would we do that? Why are we funding these horrible people? Why are we funding these terrorists? Why do we continue to support this on money? Like,
why do we give tax breaks to every fucking corporation and CEO? Why do, yeah, you know,
because corporations own the government. Like,
exactly.
It is astounding. It is astounding. Like there was literally an article released that said that what you think, how you vote, does not matter. Public policy is made by lobbyists and the politicians that they pay for. We have really, we as average, ordinary, everyday citizens have no say. Like, if we had a say, we would have abolished student debt. We would have Medicare for all of these reforms that were popular in the 2010s. We would have had all that shit, because I guarantee you, the majority of young people, the majority of Zoomers, like they would have supported and voted for this. But they're not going to let that hit the ballot. You're never going to see a ballot item that says, "Do we want to abolish all debt?"
Right. That's why we say poverty is a policy choice. There are 30 vacant housing units for every unhoused person in this country, and yet every single politician's talking about a housing crisis. And I'm pretty sure it was Trump who said that he's gonna build basically concentration camps, so there's no more tent cities, right? Crazy.
You know what that reminded me of? During the Vietnam War, the South Vietnamese government, working in conjunction with our government, they, for whatever stupid reason, well, I know what the reason is, because they wanted to drain the mass base of the National Liberation Front, known to Americans as the Viet Cong. But they basically uprooted these people from the bones of their ancestors and the fields that they had tilled for hundreds of years. And they called them strategic hamlets. And they tried to move everybody that lived in the countryside into these strategic hamlets. They wanted to concentrate the population so that the National Liberation Front, the Viet Cong, cannot go in and organize the people and gain the support. Of course, what ended up happening was, because the Viet Cong were basically the people, they were already in a strategic hamlet, and most of them ended up being abandoned or blown up. But
well, we got rocked in that war that we never should have been in, you know?
Yeah.
They were well prepared.
Yeah. I mean, you cannot invade and occupy somebody. The Vietnamese have been fighting wars for thousands of years.
Not in the jungle. We don't know what the hell we're doing.
Of course not, America. No, of course not.
It's just easier now because we just use computers and drop shit.
No, they did that in Vietnam too. They also used napalm
Well,
to kill all the
sure
forests and shit.
did. Agent
Yeah,
Orange.
yeah, the Weather Underground. The one good thing that they did, they
Oh,
actually
one
put a
good
bomb.
thing.
They actually put. Oh, God, please don't tell me you're a modern day wannabe weatherman. But
Want to be? I mean, I don't want to be them. But I wouldn't. I don't know if I would say the one thing. I'm not interested in debating it, though. I mean, continue.
yeah, the one good thing
I'm
that they
curious
did
what you
was
think that was. Yeah.
they destroyed a computer at the Pentagon. They put a
Yeah, that's
because
not bad.
they love putting their devices in toilets, and the particular toilet that they put this in at the Pentagon was right above a. Hold on, let me look it up. It was right above like a major computer that controlled a lot of shit in Vietnam.
That's
Let me look it
wild.
up.
I
Yeah,
actually had no idea about that at all.
but you're a Weather Underground fan.
I didn't say that either.
All right, bald ears. Yeah, May 19th, 1972, the birthday of Ho Chi Minh.
Mm,
So, yeah, let's see. And it marked the end of the Weatherman's major actions for almost a year and a half because, like, they also, uh, they really weren't all that good at building. Like, they actually tried to move from because their original strategy was not to hurt people. They just wanted to damage property that was conducive to the continued operation of U.S. imperialism. They were basically their bombs were protest bombs, but they tried to segue into actually fucking up people. And they tried to make an anti-personnel device in this townhouse that belonged to one of their members' dads. And it was right next door to where Dustin Hoffman lived at the time in Greenwich Village in New York. So what ended up happening was somebody fucked up the timer and it blew the whole townhouse up. And they were like, "Oh wow, this sucks. Yeah, maybe we're not Viet Cong after all."
well, people and organizations all make mistakes. And I'm not a
That's a hell of a
pacifist. I'm not a
that's a hell of a
pacifist,
mistake.
so it may be. I mean, it sounds like you're suggesting that other groups like them didn't. But more importantly for me, it's not about them specifically. When I talk about the protests of 2020 or the protests of my generation, there were people who were actively working on the inside, so to speak, as well, bringing demands, such as the 10 demands that I co created in 2020 to elected officials. And the scarier the radicals are, the more intimidated they are by the Malcolm X's and the Black Panther parties, the more likely they are to listen to the Martin Luther Kings. And so I'm just thinking of the Weather Underground alongside every other group that scared the shit out of the government.
The government wasn't afraid of the Weather Underground. They
All right.
they were definitely afraid of the Black Panther Party, but they weren't afraid of a bunch of rich white kids putting bombs in toilets.
All right.
That's why they really didn't put in all that much effort to hunt them down. Like these people literally had to, like these people when they started coming in and turning themselves in like the late 70s, the FBI was like, "Oh wow, you guys still exist? Oh cool." But now the Black Panther Party, like they literally hunted them down. Like there are still Panthers in prison. All of the weathermen,
Oh,
they're out. They're
there's no
teaching at
question about that.
yeah, like the weathermen, they're out teaching at universities, hanging out with Barack Obama, all that cool shit.
What?
No, they weren't.
I would love for you to find me Weather Underground members hanging out with Barack Obama.
It
I
was
mean,
it
that
was
would blow my mind.
no, it was a big because I think okay, because Obama used to be a community organizer in Chicago, right? Bill Ayers, I'm
Sure.
pretty sure you
I'm
know who he
aware of
is.
Bill Ayers,
Like
of
it was,
course.
yeah, like it was a big deal because apparently he had met Bill Ayers once.
Well, that doesn't like you had to me, that's not a big deal at all.
No, they don't
I've met
regularly.
word, free Mumia. I've been protesting for Mumia for 20 plus years. Sorry, that was
No,
in response to one of your comments.
they don't regularly hang out and go to dinner at each other's houses, but I think they
Right.
did meet. They did meet because Ayers was a professor.
I mean,
And
you know, a lot of
I'm loving it.
anti-fascists catch a lot of heat. I'm not one of them, and I don't do this work, but a lot of them have met numerous times with Nazis. And there are people who are like, if you're standing next to a Nazi, you're a Nazi. But they say I'm there to um, combat Nazism, to record their response to me, et cetera, et cetera. And I happen to believe the latter.
Yeah, I mean that's everybody has work that they slot into. For example,
Yeah.
not everybody's going to be out on the
Yeah.
barricades throwing down with cops. Some people are going
Right.
to be doing
Right.
jail support, like that. Like we have to make a
Beautifully
movement.
said.
Yeah, we have to make a movement that is amenable and that welcomes our disabled comrades. We have to make a
Right.
movement that is welcoming to comrades that are undocumented, so they can't go out and get arrested every weekend. So that's
Absolutely.
what. So when you place, I guess, more importance on a certain type of work than you do other types of work that are equally as important. It's like you mentioned in your very good example of Malcolm X and the Black Panther Party. It's the people in the streets that make reforms possible. Like LBJ, he was sitting in the White House literally thinking, who do I want black people listening to? Do I want them listening to Malcolm X or do I want them listening to Martin Luther King? Yes, Martin Luther King is probably a communist, but I would rather have the nice commie than this guy that's literally saying, blow white people's heads off. So, yeah, in a way, you're right. The Indian independence movement actually worked that way too. You had Bhagat Singh and the communists over there that were literally fucking up everything with the red coat, and you also had the Gandhian type of pacifists. So both types of people are needed. Like you have to have a mass movement. Like nobody should be under the delusion that we are going to launch a military campaign that can actually topple the United States tomorrow. That's a nice way to end up in prison for life or bleeding out in an alley somewhere while people laugh at you on Twitter. So we have to be dialectical in our
Totally.
organizing. Like we have to be dialectical in our organizing approach. For example, I'm in DSA. They do a lot of they do a lot of electoral work, but I'm not into electoral work. That's not my forte. I'm more into like direct action, mutual aid, that type of stuff. That's my organizing background. That's where I come from. So we can respect our comrades that do a variety of work, even though I don't think that nobody thinks that socialism is going to be implemented through an election. A lot of people think that DSA is like that. DSA does not think that we are going to vote in socialism. Of course, many people have varying opinions on what actually is going to bring socialism, but I guarantee you that the people who actually think that you can peacefully implement socialism are pretty large, but also pretty irrelevant minority. There's one caucus that believes that, North Star Caucus, and nobody likes them. Oh shit. Back to the article. I love these tangents. You're very good at tangents. They're awkward tangents.
Always.
Yeah. So why did the Democrats lose? Because like there's no like they brought us nothing. They brought us nothing. Student loan debt, still a thing. Inflation, sky high. Of course, Trump is not going to make it better because his policies apparently are to put tariffs on everything, which is in the jack up prices. For example, if your food, your fruit and shit, if it's coming from Argentina, while you slap it, well, he's probably not going to put a tariff on Argentina because Malay is his buddy. But like, yeah, that whole protectionist bullshit that doesn't work under capitalism anymore because we live in it's the I guess the double-edged sword of imperialism. You want to withdraw into yourself, but you also built a system that preys on the rest of the world, that is reliant on products produced in the rest of the world. Like he's also always talking about tariffs on China. Like, do you have any idea what would happen to the economy if he put tariffs with teeth on China? Like, no, that's not going to happen. The money people will not allow that to happen. Like these people own penthouses in Shanghai and Hong Kong and Beijing. They are not going to allow you to fuck that money up. And another interesting thing about Trump, like he's basically not even a week after the election, he's fucking over all the supporters. Like a lot of the more radicalized elements of them, like your hardcore neo-Nazis and fascists and white nationalists that back them, like they already quit fucking with them after he appointed Vance as VP because they consider Vance to be a globalist weirdo. He's also married to an Indian woman, which they also don't like. As an individual of solid Scotch, Irish, American colonial stock, he belongs married to Becky Sue. Anyways,
I do want to
And
say
now,
that one little thing that the people you called out may be too far gone. But there are so many people who vote for Trump or vote for a different Republican or even, you know, Republican Democrat. And it's simply because of generations of disinformation and lack of quality education. So, one of the roles for certain people, and this would be a role for a white person, would be to speak with other white people who are completely unaware still of this class issue and how voting for Trump does not help you, even if he's a white supremacist and your
would
dad
you
made you one.
would you say that white people are unaware of the class issue? I mean, white people, most of y'all work for a living. I mean, you all
What
know that
they are what they're
you all know.
unaware of, what they seem to be unaware of is that that neither party is an option for the working class and poor. There are people who believe that the Democrats are a solution, and there are people who believe the Republicans are a solution. But like the NDN collective said in this great video they made before the election, you have to vote like a radical. So what's the solution between two horrible options? If you vote for Trump, it is going to be a lot harder to get anything done than if you vote for Kamala. So that's the reason. And you're actually voting like a radical if you vote for Kamala, which was a wild new way of thinking for me, because she is way more likely to bend on the things that actually matter to us.
I don't agree with that analysis. A lot of people
Well,
made it though.
you might want to, yeah, they did. A lot of
A lot
people
of
that I
people,
respect.
yeah, a lot of people made that analysis. But again, like,
Oh, I mean
uh,
that video specifically.
yeah,
That's all I was
but
referring to.
yeah, I mean, colonized people have the right to vote as they please. Colonized people have the right to make the analyses that they please, even if I disagree with them.
Well,
Like,
these are not these. You're not. Are you referring to NDN collective? These are not white colonizers.
no, I said colonized.
Oh, okay. Yeah, very big difference.
Yeah, colonized. No, colonized people have the right, like, to their own political opinions. Like, it would be a very, very shitty world if we were all a monolith, like all of us thought the same.
Oh
So,
yeah.
like, I welcome, like, I heard some very, very good arguments from black comrades. Of course, I don't listen to fucking white people. I don't give a shit what they think. But a lot of very good,
So
no
why'd you?
offense.
I mean, I'm a Palestinian Jew, but I mean, I'm white as hell, skin color wise. So what in the world you invite me on for?
Because fucking Matt wanted me to. Unless you're an interesting white
Mm,
man. But no, like,
interesting.
I don't listen to white liberals. I should have
Uh,
clarified. No, I did not
no,
just
but
bring you
I
here
mean,
to
listen, man. If if I were a black person, I wouldn't listen to white people either. I'm a man, and I tend not to listen to men.
well, thank you for your understanding. But
Like, I think you called me interesting. I'd say that's probably true, whatever that word you used.
we're all interesting.
No,
Um,
we're all unique. We're not all interesting. Come on. Some people are boring as hell.
yeah, a lot of them are in DSA.
Well, let me just clarify for all the DSAers out there. I don't align with any party or even really any ideology for anyone who's
That's cool.
interested.
You can join DSA.
Um,
DSA isn't a party. We're a mass org.
Well, all I'm saying is that, and it includes whether I don't identify as a communist or a socialist or an anarchist or anything. You know, I consider myself an anti-fascist, anti-racist, abolitionist. They're slightly different. My only point is that I don't know a ton about DSA. So if I'm laughing, I'm going off my friend here.
Well, that's the way to be. So this is probably like the meat of this whole article. The pathologies of the Democrats, though, are in a sense not the result of errors. Like, the Democrats did not fuck up. Like, this is how they wanted it. Like you mentioned earlier, they literally fixed Trump. They fixed their own election because they, and their arrogance, thought that Trump was going to. This is what happens when you don't understand your own people. Okay, you already know. If you're a white Democratic strategist, you already know that your people are inclined to fascism. I mean, these are the same people that produced the Ku Klux Klan, the Conservative Citizens Council. These are the same people that, if the Nazis were in the United States, they would happily join them. These are the same people that sat by and, oh, wow, those people are suffering, but it's not me. Like, they did this during the civil rights movement. They did this during slavery. They did this during the indigenous genocide. These people do not care about anybody but themselves. So why the fuck would you boost Donald fucking Trump, a guy who is basically white America's id? He appeals to all of their basest interests, their basest thoughts. He's saying shit that they want to say, but they cannot say in polite society. Deport the Mexicans. Okay, the majority of white people in America probably believe that should be done. And judging from polling data, a lot of black people want to too. Like, every conversation that is political with working class black people that I have, it usually segues around to Mexicans. Like, oh, there's too many of them here. Why do they look? I'm like, bruh, they literally said that same stupid shit about us. When we started coming up from the South, like, there was a riot in East St. Louis across the river from me. There was a riot because white dudes thought that we were coming up taking their jobs. So this is hilarious. I think it's important for white people to realize white people are, yeah, you don't exist. I'm talking to a fucking mirage. But so the Democrats really, if they want to survive as a party, they need to stop paying money to all these strategists, because judging from 2016 and 2024, these people that they're hiring do not know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, how the fuck you're paying somebody thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to help you lose?
Yeah.
Like,
they're hiring the wrong people. I mean, I do this too. I don't charge what those people charge, and I don't tell politicians to do dumb shit. I also only focus on local politicians who agree with me ideologically.
So,
but there are strategists who aren't assholes, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
But a Democrat's not going to hire me. I mean, that goes without saying.
Of course not. You're an Antifa militant.
So says Andy.
It is the mainstream party of globalized neoliberal capitalism, but at the same time, by tradition anyway, the party of the working class. If the Democrats are the party of the working class, then we're in trouble. As the organized power of the latter, meaning the working class, has been washed away, the commitment has become somewhat more aspirational. Harris notably cleaned up with the richest income bracket of voters. Wall Street liked her a lot. The only issues on which Harris hinted of a break with Biden concerned more favorable treatment for the billionaires who surrounded her. So Harris was to the right of Biden. And her closest advisors included figures like David Plouffe, former senior vice president of Uber. I also believe he worked for Obama. And Harris's brother-in-law, Tony West, formerly the chief legal officer of Uber, who successfully urged her to drop Biden-era populism and cultivate relations with corporate allies. So you let yourself be manipulated by the CEO of fucking Uber and David Plouffe, whose name I haven't even thought about in like 15 years, into losing an election. Now, let's just, you know that everybody hates corporations now. The Trump people, most of them, like Trump does right economic populist stuff really, really, really well. And that's what resonates with white working class voters in the Rust Belt. Like, he got Pennsylvania. Ohio has been Republican for years. He got Indiana. He got Michigan. So he's carrying all these states, all these traditionally industrialized counties where there hasn't been a factory since 1979. He's carrying these people, and Trump is very, like, he acts stupid, but he's not as dumb as he sounds. Like, he knows what he can say. He knows what he can get away with. And he knows how to pull on people's heartstrings. Like, he is a demagogue. That is what demagogues do. So if you're running against a demagogue like Donald Trump, why the fuck would you? Let's just pal around with billionaires. Let's hang out with billionaires. Let's let billionaires advise my campaign. Let's let Goldman Sachs write my economic policy, like she asked for this. You've fallen in love. Congratulations. It happens. There have been many, many books and musical pieces and works of art produced about falling in love. So what do you have to say, Awkward? as a political strategist, how would you have helped Kamala Harris not lose? As a matter of fact, I have a strong suspicion that you're an accelerationist, so you probably would want Kamala Harris to lose. Also, you're muted.
Thank you for that alert, because I was definitely yapping up a storm there. That's a good question. I've never been asked that question before. Well, not surprisingly, I wouldn't consider myself an accelerationist, but I am positive that certain things that I don't know, man. I let me put it this way. I do believe what accelerationists believe, that if things were accelerated, we would get to a solution more quickly, or let me not necessarily a solution, we would get to a change more quickly. There is no guarantee that change would be something better. And what would have to happen to lead up to it is not something that I am going to espouse.
Yeah.
But to answer your initial question, again, she would never hire me, but oh God, I mean, to me, it's really fucking obvious. I would say stop talking like a Republican and start talking like the communists they've already decided you are. May as well embrace it, because Trump has sold everyone on the fact that you are. So, I mean, I know damn well you're not, because of how you functioned in California. Couldn't have been more fascist. Disgusting behavior, illegal behavior. But I know that you can, like I was saying before about this vote like a radical idea. She's way more capable of coming up with things that your typical right winger is not going to agree with. Your typical centrist is capable of understanding. I would teach her how to speak to regular people. I would tell her to stay away from the fucking celebrities and elitists. I mean, the things you said about Trump, the way he is able to, and he is stupid. You acknowledged he is not a genius, but the things he's able to do to target the poor and working class, Kamala and Biden and even Obama are not able to do.
I mean, idiots don't win 2 presidential elections.
Well,
so
they're
he's not
backed
that
up.
dumb.
He's backed up in a way that I don't know if, someone said earlier, I would never, I mean, obviously as a Jew or a leftist, I'd never compliment Hitler or Mussolini, but I wasn't offended by the comment someone made earlier, which was that Trump is dumber than them. As an abolitionist, I don't believe in commenting, honestly, on people's IQs or mental health or any of that stuff. But I do think that he is propped up by more than enough intelligent people who want bad things, that he is able to. And you mentioned that he knows what he's able to get away with. There are people telling him that, and he's always pushing it, pissing them off, and he keeps getting away with more and more. And that's terrifying.
Yep, he's going to get away with more because there's now this 47th president of the United States. So how do we, like, a lot of people are scared, and
yeah,
it's been like, I'm trying to not be as much of a dick as I was in 2016. Like,
that's nice of you.
Yeah, like I'm trying to actually help these people. Like, I'm trying to be patient with them, because you got to understand, like, not everybody's a communist. Like, a lot of
not yet, at
people,
least.
Not yet, at least. But the thing with the first Trump administration was that it brought a shitload of liberals into the movement and radicalized them. Like, people always attribute the success or growth of leftist organizing, especially in DSA, to Bernie Sanders. Like, I really don't think that's the case. Bernie Sanders wasn't even a member of DSA. So, or AOC. Like,
fuck.
I think they might have had like some role, but I think that shit, like what happened last Tuesday, like all of your, like, basically realizing that you cannot go back to brunch.
Mm-hmm.
Like 2016, like at my college, I was 2016 was, I think, my junior year of college. Like, literally the day after Trump won the first time, this kid walked up to me and was like, "Okay, you're a Maoist. What should I read?" So shit like that is what radicalizes people. Shit
That's
like
great.
that is what gets, Yeah,
And you're
shit
right.
like that's what shit like that is what gets people organized. Bernie and AOC, an old man, and AOC like are not going to like stop looking for the next Lenin. Like if you criticize communists for building cults of personality, why are you building cults of personality around the absolute shittiest people? Like, again, line has to lead. Like you have to investigate people's politics. You cannot just like just like people keep saying that, well, we should react to Trump with our own demagogues, they build these movements, then something happens to them, or someone stronger, more adept in demagoguery comes along, and then you're fucked. So,
and one of the problems with the accelerationist idea or just a revolution occurring is that history tells us in Africa and Latin America, certainly at least, that the people who have been oppressed end up mimicking their oppressors.
not always.
I didn't say always. It's happened numerous times. Nkrumah's wrote about it.
Yeah, I don't want to be like I don't want to mimic my oppressors. Well, for one, white people
You
will
don't
make
want to
horrible.
what?
I said I don't want to mimic my oppressors. White people will make horrible slaves.
No.
What the fuck am I going to do with a bunch of white slaves besides listen to them whine about the depression? Listen to them whine about the depression and get sunburned.
I'm just telling you, like, it's not like in this country it would be white people, but in those countries it was different people, but they were still their country people. Like it wasn't just white people being taken over or black people taking over a white institution. It's more like the entire country is at odds. There's a fascist dictator and then there's the rebels. And unfortunately, in a number of cases, the rebels end up behaving way too much like those initial oppressors.
Yeah, tribalism in Africa is interesting because that's part of the when the Europeans sat down in 1884 in the Berlin Conference to slice up Africa like a piece of cake.
I have a song about the song that references that.
They realized that Pan-Africanism, basically people starting to identify as citizens of Africa as opposed to like Nigeria, Benin, Togo, like none of these countries existed historically in Africa. None of them. These are creations of Europeans. So what the Europeans did, probably the most egregious example would be in Rwanda, where, as you know, there was a horrible genocide committed by the Hutu group against the Tutsis in 1994. The year I was born. But the Europeans, the Belgians, the French, the Germans, the English, they did all of this on purpose. They mashed ethnic groups that may have so the Tutsis, they were cattle herders. The Hutu, they were sedentary farmers. So there was class contradictions, there was class struggle. And what the Belgians actually did, they promoted a myth that the Tutsi were of distant European ancestry. So you gave these people a superiority complex. You also made them like bureaucrats, like petty officials. But people in villages hate nobody more than a petty official because that's the person that they see every day. Like they're not going to go and fuck up the Belgian colonial governor, but they will definitely chop off the clerk's head. So the Belgians knew that if they kept these two people fighting amongst each other, they would have enough time to fight with the Belgians. So tribalism in Africa, I think we could literally say all of these civil wars and stuff, it traces all the way back to the Europeans dividing up Africa, like divide and rule. It's as old as the Romans. You had a dream Black Red Guard was twerking while red sun in the sky was blasting.
What the hell?
That unfortunately will stay in your dreams because I'm not going to do
that. Check out Cecil Rhodes. He's like the king of imperialism. And that's the name of my song also.
I was about to say, I know who Cecil Rhodes is. I literally have a degree in African American studies.
No, not you, man. I meant your listeners. It's impossible for me to know who knows what because I have no idea who any of these people are.
No. Matt made me do this.
Well, it's possible I do. Yeah, you said
I
that
guess.
already, man.
So, I guess, what do we do for the next 4 years?
I mean, we have to continue what we've been doing. If you look at the way critical resistance was formed, they all came to a table and said, we've been fighting for 30, 40 years, and all we've gotten is reformist reforms that have only strengthened the system. And so they created that abolitionist organization that continues today. I believe we continue to organize and we continue in this historical fight that will never end.
It'll never end, or it will end with communism.
Well, I believe that the struggle never ends. I don't believe that there's a perfect system. My ideal world does not have any borders at all, and that we are a patchwork of actual like self-sustained communities that we protect us, we feed us, we house us and clothe us, etc.
Oh, that's a noble dream. May happen, may
Well,
not. I want.
well,
I
I
want.
have no idea what's going to happen.
I do. I'm psychic. I know everything that's going to happen. I know everything that has happened. I know everything that's happening right now.
Congratulations, or that might be quite hard to manage.
It
I have
is. I'm
enough
literally.
mental illnesses and neurodivergency to know that that would overwhelm me.
eh, I think I handle it pretty well. Of course, most people would probably define me as insane, but who gives a fuck what people think? What are you drinking in there? Milkshake?
Why milkshake? Because of Andy No? And how
Yeah,
he got
Andy,
hit
no.
with a milkshake?
Yeah.
No.
Also, that.
Uh,
Also, that. Also, they're auctioning off all of Alex Jones's shit right now.
yeah, that's fire. Definitely. I was drinking coffee first and now water.
You drinking coffee out of that big ass thing? I guess fuck your
It,
heart, huh?
this thing. I mean, I'm pretty thin and I work out, whatever. That's not a topic I enjoy discussing at all. I'm not worried about my health at this current time.
No, you sound like my fucking coworker.
Hmm.
Any, anything you want to wrap up with?
Nah, man, I'm good. You could check out my music or you could check out 10 Demands, although like my 10 Demands song that got censored, the 10 Demands website, 10forjustice.com, was taken down by Google, and I'm working on getting it back up still.
Why are people censoring you?
The content, same reason anyone else is censored.
Oh,
You'll have to check the 10 Demands video. It's not entirely censored. You have to click like 2 extra buttons, but you can watch it. Like you can't. I never earned money off of any of my work in this arena anyway. But demonetization, if it had been monetized.
so they're that
Anyway,
afraid of a bald. They're that afraid of a middle-aged bald white rapper, huh?
I guess so.
Damn.
It's actually something someone else said, and it was a black woman. I'm glad you guys are finding this so amusing.
No. If you cut off somebody's head, I don't want to know about it.
I don't understand what that means at all. But
John
all
Brown.
right, man.
John Brown was running around Kansas decapitating slave owners with the broadsword.
Oh, if you're referring to John Brown, like I said, I'm not a pacifist, but I'm not running around with a sword. I'm available to protect myself, though. Good. All
Awesome.
right, man. I'm
Okay.
out of here.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah.
Well, that was certainly interesting. But yeah, listen to Comrade Awkward's music and read his articles. Peace.